Some lies don't start with bad intentions. They start with a promise, a hope, and a wish for luck. That's how it began for Margaret. At 62, she lived a quiet life in her small town, teaching piano and tending to her rose garden. Her best friend Ruth had been part of that life for over 40 years. They'd grown up together, shared secrets, and survived losses side by side. One morning, as the two sat drinking tea on the porch, Ruth noticed Margaret's wedding ring, a simple gold band with a tiny diamond that caught the light. "You still wear it," Ruth said softly, "even after all these years." Margaret smiled, twisting the ring gently. "It reminds me that love doesn't end when someone's gone." Her husband Walter had passed 10 years ago. The ring was one of the few things she never took off. Ruth nodded. "You know," she said suddenly, "I have a big job interview tomorrow. I've been so nervous. Maybe I need a little luck." Margaret chuckled. "I'll say a prayer for you." Ruth hesitated, then laughed lightly. "Or maybe I could borrow your luck." She pointed to the ring. Margaret blinked. "My ring?" "Just for a day," Ruth said quickly. "I promise I'll bring it back tomorrow." "You always said Walter's ring had good energy." Margaret frowned for a moment. She'd never taken it off since the funeral. But Ruth looked so hopeful, so childlike in her nervousness, that she finally smiled. "All right," she said softly, "but just one day." Ruth slid the ring onto her finger and grinned. "I'll take good care of it." "Promise." The next morning, Ruth called. "Interview went great," she said. "I'll drop by later to return the ring." But that evening came and went, then a day, then a week. Margaret didn't want to seem impatient. Ruth had always been forgetful, but something inside her began to ache, an unease she couldn't explain. Finally, after 10 days, Margaret stopped by Ruth's house. She knocked, smiling nervously. Ruth opened the door, looking startled. "Oh, Margaret, I was just about to call you." Margaret's eyes went to Ruth's hands. They were bare. "About the ring," she began. "You forgot to—" Ruth cut her off. Yes, I know. I took it off after the interview, and I think I put it somewhere safe, but don't worry, I'll find it." Margaret forced a smile. "All right, I trust you," but as she walked home, her stomach sank with doubt. That night, she sat on the edge of her bed, twisting the empty spot on her finger. The ghost of a ring that once meant forever. To be continued. 2 weeks passed, and Ruth still hadn't returned the ring. Margaret told herself not to worry. "It's just a piece of jewelry," she said out loud. But deep down, it wasn't about gold or diamonds. It was about memory, about trust. One afternoon, while shopping for groceries, Margaret heard a familiar laugh from across the aisle. Ruth's laugh. She turned, and there was Ruth talking with a neighbor, and on her hand, glittering under the fluorescent light, was the ring. Margaret froze. Her throat tightened. Ruth hadn't lost it. She'd kept it. That night, Margaret called her. Her voice was calm but heavy. "Ruth, could you stop by tomorrow?" "We need to talk the next morning." Ruth arrived looking uneasy. She sat on the porch, twisting her hands. "I saw you at the store," Margaret said quietly. "You were wearing it." Ruth's face went pale. "Margaret, I meant to tell you, it just felt so good to wear it, like it gave me strength." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to lie. I just couldn't bring myself to give it back." Margaret nodded slowly. "Do you know what that ring meant to me?" "Yes," Ruth whispered. "That's why I thought maybe, if I wore it, I'd feel what you had. That kind of love." Tears welled in Margaret's eyes. "Oh, Ruth, love doesn't live in a ring." Ruth reached into her pocket and pulled out the gold band. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've been losing sleep over it. Every time I looked at it, it reminded me that it wasn't mine." Margaret took it back, feeling its familiar weight again, but somehow it felt different now. Heavier, not with gold, but with forgiveness. She smiled softly. "You don't need luck, Ruth. You just need honesty." Ruth nodded, tears falling. "I know. And I promise, no more small lies." Moral: small lies can weigh heavier than big ones, because the truth doesn't hurt half as much as carrying the guilt of what's hidden. Thank you for listening to The Borrowed Ring. Have you ever told a small lie that grew heavier with time? Share your story below. Someone out there might need to hear it. Subscribe for more true, heartfelt stories about love, forgiveness, and the lessons we learn too late. Until next time, remember, honesty may be hard, but guilt is harder.